So, board, you may remember that we came before you last year and highlighted Long Reach High School and how they were implementing restorative justice with the support of the AA grant that we received 3 years ago. Today, we are here to celebrate Swansfield Elementary School's journey. Before I turn it over to our amazing leaders at Swansfield, I would like to remind you that we have 6 cohort schools. They are Longfellow Elementary School, Laurel Woods Elementary School, Swansfield Elementary, Mayfield Woods Middle School, Wild Lake High School, and Long Reach High School. These schools were selected based on administrator interest and commitment. And we have gone in depth previously about all the grant provides, but some highlights are a full-time liaison to the cohort schools, really important because I can't do it myself, professional learning opportunities, technical assistance, and partnerships both inside and outside of HCPSS. We are committed to continuing our work through at least school year 22-23, even though the grant will expire at the end of this year. I hope this slide reminds you of what you already know, that restorative justice is about building relationships. Building relationships starts with staff. Let me say that again. To succeed, you must take the time to allow staff to build relationships with one another so they can in turn model and build them with students and families. You cannot begin to repair relationships that don't exist, and we've worked diligently in partnership with our cohort schools to move away from the belief that restorative justice is something that is done to students after harm has occurred and towards a philosophy that requires us to examine the responsibility and role of adults. And with that, please let me introduce Laurel Porter, principal of Swansfield Elementary School, and Keynora Greenwood, reading specialist at Swansfield Elementary School, who are going to show you how they have put this philosophy into action at Swansfield. Trying to go for it.
Thank you, Colleen. Good evening. I'm excited to share with you today just a little glance into Swansfield's journey as a restorative justice school. We'll be talking about the steps we took to build our community, to create and establish a clear vision, how we established a restorative justice team, our focus on language, and support from the union. And to start us off, Keynora Greenwood, who is a reading specialist and member of our restorative justice team at Swansfield, is going to share a little bit about some background information with you.
Hello. Swansfield was once a place where people didn't greet one another. We had teachers arguing in front of students, students often arguing with one another. There was no trust amongst teammates. There were cliques, closed doors, protesting. There was a fear of asking for help, thinking that it would be seen as a sign of weakness. The school climate led to 42 staff members leaving. There were days I wanted to run too, but my relationships with students kept me at Swansfield. I actually know students who didn't want to be released from intervention once performing on grade level because intervention is where they were best supported, or as one student put it, "You understand me." We had students who didn't want to build relationships with staff because they'll be gone anyway, said by a student who didn't have one teacher that she could go back to visit the following year from kindergarten through 4th grade. Our office referral rate was high because we were punitive and not restorative. After being a part of this cohort, Swansfield is now restorative. We have staff greeting one another, cross-team relationships, students wanting to come to school because we're focused on meeting all of their needs. And that may look different depending on the student. It could be a familiar face, a meal, a chance to get additional support. We have open doors now. Staff feel comfortable asking for help, going to their ITL, RST, MST, and administration to problem solve. We have students asking about other students, hoping that they are okay in the times that we're in. We have stronger relationships being built with students and families through restorative practices. I was out sick for 2 days, and I had a student try to hand me $2 when I got to his group. I asked him what it was for, and he said I was sick and missed work. That was one of the most caring things I've ever experienced. I explained to him how thoughtful and kind he was and that I was okay. I'd rather him use the money to get a special treat when he went to the store. I'm sure every teacher in my building has a story as caring as mine. an example of how our success factors are being displayed school-wide.
So as Keynora shared, obviously we had to start with relationship building and community building. We began with our building relationships between staff members. This was a focus during all of our staff meetings, and we provided opportunities for staff to develop relationships across grade levels and focus areas, so content areas. We also focused on staff and student relationships. So we started with always having a consistent time for community building in all of our classrooms across the school. And what this allowed us to do was to have all staff in our school participate. So not just our homeroom or classroom teachers that our students spend the most time with, but all of our interventionists, our related arts teachers, and support staff in the building could also attend community time to begin to build better relationships with students. We also focused on staff and family relationships. So in our first year, we had a fabulous PTA where we spent all of our meetings, our general membership meetings, with time together with staff and families, focusing on developing our shared values and building those relationships. So we weren't talking about committee reports at that time. We weren't talking about upcoming events. That was all done separately, but our general membership meetings were really truly about building that community. And then we also focused on our student-to-student relationships. So increasing opportunities for students to build relationships within the classroom community, and then also looking at small group opportunities to target specific needs that we saw. So an important piece was also our clear vision and the support of the union. One thing that we consistently reminded our staff is that RJ is not a quick fix. It is a journey, and we need to always continue to remember that. If everyone is in it together, we will see the greatest impact. So that was really important. We couldn't, if we were all coming to a consensus that this is the way we're going to do something, we all had to be in it 100%. And then we always return to our data to support the why as well as our journey. So we look at our data, and that helps to give us the reason and the why behind why we need to do this work. And then also we use that data along the way to celebrate growth and identify new areas of need. We established an RJ team of dedicated staff to support the work. And this was also really important because this was, when we started, it was staff members who were committed to this work that wanted to lead the journey. So these were staff members that chose to be a part of this team. It was voluntary, and they really gave it their all. They met every single week. We had ongoing opportunities for staff to participate in office hours with Dewana and Nicole from the Restorative Justice Partnership. And this was huge as well. So as we were beginning our journey, and like I said, we had to remind people it's not a quick fix. People started to have questions or question, is this working? I'm not seeing results fast enough. Dewana was always available. And so staff could schedule times with her, ask their questions, and that was ongoing. And then our HCEA leadership was always there to support us. So Colleen would come to our staff meetings and participate in our professional learning along with our staff, as well as the professional learning of the cohort schools. And then of course, through the grant, we had financial support, including that full-time liaison to support our work, as well as fund all of our professional learning. So this just gives you a brief glance at some of our professional learning. We started with an introduction to restorative justice, and it was really important that this was a full staff meeting, so all staff were participating in this training, and it was about explaining that restorative justice is really a philosophy, it is a process, and it's really about the culture within our building. And it does go well beyond community circles and a book study. And so we constantly reviewed what is restorative justice and why we are doing it. We had select staff attend 4-day Peace Circle trainings, and that's ongoing. And then as our staff became trained in Peace Circles, we also had our own staff as well as staff from the other cohorts and central office facilitate circles for our staff. And those circles for our staff were really pivotal because that was the moment that staff really realized that building relationships among each other was very helpful and was what was going to move us forward. And that's when they really understood the power of those relationships. And then that fed over into the power of relationships with students. We did a school-wide book study on the Little Book of Restorative Justice, and that included everyone in our staff. So our front office staff attended, our health room staff attended. It wasn't just our teaching staff, but we really were sure to include everyone that could attend during the school day. And then our focus for monthly staff meetings throughout the year was on RJ, especially that first year. Pretty much every single staff meeting was that focus. And then as we've continued through, it just is an ongoing focus. And then we had the opportunity to participate in additional trainings such as racism and adultism, restorative conversations, nonviolent communication, and community engagement in our role within the community at large. So focusing on language was really a place that we started. We had all of our staff participate in a reflective process. So this was actually probably one of our most powerful staff meetings. We had staff share examples with the restorative justice team of things that they had heard other staff members say or things that they had witnessed that were not restorative. And we shared those examples with our staff. And then the staff reflected on the impact of those words or actions that they had on others, whether it be students or other staff members. And then they worked to identify ways to support each other so that students to prevent these words and actions from happening again in the future. So as a result of this staff meeting, staff really began to speak up when they witnessed or heard something that was non-restorative. And that's an agreement that came out of that meeting, that that's something that we all needed to do. And so language continued to be a focus. And for example, this year we've moved on and now we're focusing on nonviolent communication, specifically using observable language that's non-judgmental. So an example of that might be in the past, a teacher may come to an administrator or may tell a parent, your child's, Kayla stole a pencil from this person's desk. And so that's really not observable language and it's judgmental and it's basically calling a student a thief. So we're labeling the student. Instead, we're working on very specific language. So it might be Kayla took a pencil from a classmate's desk on her way to math class. We don't know what Kayla's intention was. We don't know why Kayla did it. So we're focusing on the observable action because then that allows us to address what happened and figure out next steps. But we're not making a judgment about the student and calling them a thief. And Keynora is going to share some examples as well.
We have focused on using restorative language from the smallest of things to the biggest of things. What might seem like a small example is how we strive to greet students when they are late. There is a huge difference between, you're late, hurry up, let's get started, and so glad you're here. Do you need breakfast? Here's what we're doing. Let's get started. We just recently changed our late pass so that it matches the language we strive to use. Our old pass was simple. It said late pass, letting teachers know that students have checked in. Now it's a welcoming pass that says, so glad you're here. Your teacher can't wait to see you. We've also really grown as a staff in being comfortable with having tough conversations with colleagues. I know personally when I witness an adult saying something that is not okay, I address it in the moment in front of the student because we want the student to know that they are cared for. This was a stretch for me and other staff members who may have been more comfortable having the conversations privately. However, the students need to know that they are supported. One day a fifth grade class was a little chatty in the hallway and out of line, and their teacher said, "Do you see these fifth graders acting like animals?" The other staff member said, "They are not acting like animals. That is not nice. We need not refer to our students as animals." This is just one of many examples of how our culture has shifted for the better.
So we've really been working on shifting our staff mindset and changing our practices. This slide really relates to PBIS and how we've changed our practices with PBIS to align with restorative justice. So we used to have 3 rules at Swansfield: be safe, be responsible, and be respectful. Now we have success factors. So our students, our staff, and our families together developed Swansfield's 6 success factors. They're kindness, self-control, perseverance, empathy, accountability, and hope. And those were developed collaboratively as things that we all, students, staff, and families, need to exhibit every day to be at our best. We used to address undesired behavior by associating it with breaking one of the 3 rules. So you're rocking in your chair, that's not safe. You're doing this, please, that's not respectful. Now our focus is on teaching the desired behavior and then processing each individual situation. So focusing on that success factor, we want to see that student displaying that maybe they're struggling with in that moment. We used to just focus on reinforcing rules, and now we have lessons to teach each specific success factor at all grade levels. So students receive introduction lessons at the beginning of the year to introduce them to all 6. And then we focus on each of the 6 success factors throughout the school year for approximately 6 weeks at a time. And we used to only reward students for positive behaviors with a lot of extrinsic rewards, like a prize card, treasure chest, things like that. And now we focus more on relationship and community-based rewards. So now when students are filling their SWAN card and they're picking rewards, they're picking things like helping Miss Porter for 10 minutes at the end of the day, and they help me make deliveries to teachers. They're choosing to have a related arts teacher come into their classroom and be a guest teacher for the day. They're picking things that allow them to spend time with either previous teachers, maybe go to their siblings' class to visit, but there are more things that are helping out in our school community and building relationships. Colleen. And then I just wanted to finish off with a little bit about our HCEA satisfaction survey. This is something that our staff is extremely proud of. And I say our staff because it truly is the result of the hard work of our entire staff. In 2016-17, the overall morale at the school was 14.3%. That's how many people said that they thought morale at the school was good. And last year we were at 91.7%. Teamwork among staff in our school, as you can imagine, listening to what Keynora had shared earlier, only 51% of people in 16-17 said there was good teamwork. And in 2021, it was up to 97.9%. And then the last one in my school, administrators or supervisors support me in enforcing discipline. You can see that growth there. And we don't put this one in here because it's really not just about administration. As a restorative justice school, conflict is always going to happen. Things are always going to happen. And it's about how we handle them and what we do. And so we have stopped being as punitive. And it used to be that staff would say, they don't have enough consequences. They need more consequences, and that would fix it. We have less office referrals and less suspensions now, but yet school staff feel more supported. And the reason for that is because it's a collaborative process to talk about what can we really do to support that student to help stop that undesired behavior. It's not just about a punishment. And then as a part of our the Restorative Justice Cohort Schools, we all give a intensive school climate survey twice a year. And that's given to all of our students in elementary school. It's students grades 3 through 5, all of our staff, and we also survey our families. And then we're provided with a very detailed report that identifies areas of strength and growth. So just as we're going to show you a few examples, anything that's labeled in that dark green is identified as we're kind of in that optimal performance. The light green is approaching optimal performance. Yellow is an area of opportunity to intensify focus. And red is really an area of concern. So we just pulled out a few survey items. There are probably about 60 survey items, and we just pulled out a few. So the first 2 were items from the student survey. So you can see in year 1 of giving the survey, someone says something mean about me. In year 1, that was in that area of concern. It was in the red. And now in year 4, we're approaching that optimal performance. So that goes along with our success factor of kindness. And then students trust adults in the school. Again, we were in yellow, so that area of opportunity to focus, and we're now in that light green of approaching optimal. And then 2 examples from staff. Faculty and staff are comfortable discussing difficult and controversial issues. Again, that was an area of concern for us in year 1, and now we are approaching. And then faculty and staff do a good job helping parents understand what social, emotional, and character skill their child needs to learn. Again, was an area of concern that staff said about themselves, and now are feeling more comfortable in approaching that optimal. And then for our families, 2 that we just wanted to highlight, we're developing a student's character is just as important to teachers and staff as academic learning. So our families actually had said we were doing pretty well with that in the beginning and approaching, but we just continue to still make that a focus, and we're now in that optimal performance. And then the school involves students in making decisions about things that affect them. So in that year 1, an area of focus, and now approaching that optimal performance. And I'm going to turn it back to Colleen.
So as we move forward, we definitely want this collaboration to continue, and we have the ability, obviously, to support this work through the end of next school year. Because the building administrators play such an essential role, as you just saw with Ms. Porter, I am asking you publicly not to transfer the principals in our cohort schools. Please allow us the opportunity to finish what we've started. In addition to the vital role that our administrators play, our educators need support through additional staffing. You're about to do the budget. We are excited about the new contract language that will allow a teacher to be on special assignment. This is a way to build a bridge to HCPSS from the work we'll be continuing to support through the union, including regular in-house trainings, as Ms. Nicole provides right now. As Swansfield has eloquently illustrated, restorative justice is not simply an alternative to discipline. It is a way to build community. And if anyone would like the opportunity to see what restorative justice implementation looks like in our cohort schools, both Swansfield Elementary and Long Reach are hosting visits throughout the rest of the school year. And you can reach out to the email address on the screen for more information.